day, everyone. Welcome back to the Doc of Detox show. Today's show is called The Number One Key to Healing Microcirculation. Okay, now listen, microcirculation is 74% of the circulation in the human body, so don't underestimate this, okay? And we'll be talking more about that in a minute. But before we get started, I'd like to talk about taking your power back. Better still, how would you like to learn how to keep it in the first place? Our most popular training is our personalized treatment and training. This training is for couples, families, groups, singles, friends, and those who have caretakers. And then guess what? We have professional trainings from our whole life coach, which is all about advanced nutrition, okay, and emotional wellness. So you might want to check that out. And our Wolfe Deep Tissue Certification course and Wolfe Non-Surgical course. Check it out on itioh.com, okay? Thank you. So before we get started, I'd like to introduce Dr. Marcel Wolfe. He's also my brother. And today we have a special guest on the Doc of Detox show. His name is Tom Muehlbauer, and he is the president and founder of Avacen, a revolutionary technology which is changing so many lives today and so many lives with my clinic. And hello, Tom. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. Thank you very much.
Good. If you don't mind, before I start, I want to set the stage for everybody, and I want to do this. I want to give you the last testimonial about this little device right here. Okay, and understand something. We're talking about the technology, not so much the actual device. Okay, so the technology, what it does, that's what we're after today. We're here to teach you about microcirculation. We're here to teach you that you've got to bring your power back. We're here to teach you that the only way you're going to get healthy is if you take massive personal action. And maybe this is something you might want to look at. So remember something, we're not here to sell you the device, but we're here to sell you what the technology is and what this actually does, because microcirculation is the most important circulation. I have a lady, her name is Leslie. Okay, she came in 2 days ago and we were in this very room, okay, and I did a consultation on her, okay? So anyway, she had ovarian cancer. So that ovarian cancer didn't go so well. So she had a total hysterectomy. So now she said, well, I think it's really about your emotions and it's about your circulation here. And anyways, I said, why don't you just try using this? So why did she come to me? I'll tell you why. Because she's in pain, she's exhausted, and she's just spent, okay? And guess what? The cancer came back and it's in her peritoneum. And that's that sac that holds all the organs in your abdominal cavity. So anyways, I said, I'll put it on for half an hour, just try it while we're doing the consultation. So she, right after about maybe 10 minutes into it, she goes, I'm feeling pressure under my arms and in my groin as if it's like a cork trying to be pushed out of a bottle. And I said, that's because you're so jammed up in your lymph system. She goes, I don't know if I can take this. It feels so uncomfortable. And I go, just breathe with me. So we started doing the Lionheart breathing. She relaxed a little bit more. And I said, how do you feel now? She goes, I think I'm going to be okay. And I go, well, that's good. Because you'd be surprised how often anxiety takes over. And that'll really mess up your circulation, let me tell you. So she calls me the next morning. I'll make it short and sweet. I can't believe it. I've had 3 bowel movements. I'm actually going to the bathroom and urinating. And the reason why you're going to go, why is that so important? Because she had ascites in her tummy, which is water retention, because of the cancer being so acidic and so much inflammation. She had to retain the water to put out the fire. Because when you got a forest fire, you take water to that fire. So she was going to get the water taken out the next day. And anyways, half of the ascites came down in 1.5 hour treatment from using the Avacen. Okay, so whether you use the Avacen or you find some other way to increase that microcirculation, it's 74% of your body, and that's what's shutting down. And until it shuts down, you don't have a disease. Tom, welcome to the show. Marcel, Dr. Wolfe, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a great start. I always love hearing testimonials. Because we're having so many machines that are out in the field now. It's almost daily that I'm hearing new, amazing testimonials from people using it. So that was another one I hadn't heard before. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I've been using it on a whole bunch of different chemo patients and radiation patients, and what it does for reducing the such severe symptoms that they're having is amazing, Tom. So yeah, that's something to look at.
Thank you.
Marcel, would you like to?
Well, we're going to cover a number of different topics today, and probably one of the most important is microcirculation. And Tom's going to really fill us in on what that means.
What is microcirculation? That's what we want to know. That's what people want to know. And you know what? People have not heard about microcirculation. They don't realize the importance of it. They just think that their arteries and their veins are all there is.
It's something that we should be taught in grade school. We've been told that the heart is the main pump that pumps the blood to the body, which of course is the delivery system. And so if we can actually increase that and optimize that exercise, now we need to know is that, as Darrell was saying just earlier, 76% of what happens in the vascular system is not the heart. It's actually the small blood vessels and capillaries, and expanding and contracting as the heart does as a muscle. So the blood from the tip of your nose, the tip of your toes, it's not just the heart. And so we'll get into that explanation and how important is it to understand that when you increase microcirculation by any percentage, and Tom, is it correct, 66%?
Yeah, I mean, the studies that we've done show that it's 66%, and higher in some cases, lower in other cases, but the documented ones are approximately 66%.
That's still higher than anything else I've heard, at least at this point.
Yeah, it's 100% higher than any claims that I've heard.
Right. So let's take it from the beginning. How did you actually get into this whole Avacen project? What was the initial reason for your getting started in this?
Okay. Actually, when I discovered I call it the Avacen treatment method, and that's really what our patents are based on. I was working with scientists at Stanford University on rapidly cooling the human body. So I was becoming very familiar with human thermal regulation. And at the same time, for 7 years or so, I had been trying to help my sister-in-law find a cure or a relief from her migraines. She had chronic migraines, which means she had over 15 migraines a month. And she was about 20 migraines a month, so you can imagine that. And I found some research on I started a company called Point-to-Point Software, and the purpose of Point-to-Point Software was to map out triggers to migraines, to neurological reactions in the brain. And so the more I learned about migraines, the more I learned that scientists had they knew a lot of the trigger points, but the triggers, but they didn't know what caused migraines. And I came across some research of a doctor who was using T3 hormones to treat thyroid patients that he had. And his whole hypothesis was that thyroid patients typically have low core body temperature. You can hold their hand, and their hands are always cold. And his hypothesis was if he could bring a core body temperature back to normal thermia, for you guys it'd be 37 degrees. And then he felt that the hormones and the enzymes would work the way they're supposed to work and help heal the body. So by raising the core body temperature, those patients or subjects that were in his study were getting relief from migraines, which wasn't expected. And so a light bulb came on one morning and saying, well, if I can raise the core, because her sister, my wife's sister, my sister-in-law, always had low body temperature. She was like 36 degrees. And
what would that be in Fahrenheit?
Okay, I was doing Canada for you, but so it would be 1.8 up, so it'd be about 97 degrees.
Okay.
Yeah,
you can keep it American. That's fine with us.
Okay, good, because then I don't have to figure this out, because I know that Fahrenheit really well. But she always had her core body temperature, or her temperature was always about 97 degrees. Her hands were cold. As a matter of fact, she was wearing gloves at times in the middle of summer. She was so cold. And so I started thinking about the technology and the mechanism of action that we're using at Stanford to rapidly cool people. And anyway, so I came up with a way to increase the core body temperature actually past 98.6. Let's call that normothermia, and she got relief from day one that I tried it on her. The machine didn't look like that. Actually, the machine way back then looked more like a fish tank with a metal can on the inside of it, a cooling jug, and a hot water heater that we pour the hot water into the cooling jug, and then try to adjust it till it got to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and then run it with a vacuum motor through the core. This is a very sophisticated. This is 7th edition, which actually came out at the end of 2016, and this one's a computer. Okay, so it's my background is in computers, computer engineering, and so that device that's sitting between you has over 4,000 instructions. It's got its own operating system, and the reason it has that is the Avacen treatment method has to manage all types of functions when it's working on your body, and I designed it to be easy to use. So it's a one-button push system for doing an enormous amount of work, and I did that so my mom could use it. My mom's 95 now, and for probably the last 15 years, she hasn't been able to figure out the remote control for the TV. And I thought, if my mom's got to use this, I've got to make it very, very simple. So fortunately, I had the background in computer programming and computer engineering. And so it's grown quite a bit since the first version. And that was in January of 2009. So it's been over 10 years that I've been working on this.
Yeah, we've even got 4-year-olds
so that's how I
that
got
are
started
operating
out.
it. I was gonna say we even have now 4-year-olds that are operating it. So from 84 to 4. Yeah.
Yeah. Our youngest user of it is 2 years old, and the 4-year-old that you just mentioned, actually, she just turned 5, but she calls it hand time, and she just loves the way it makes her feel. And she's on the autism scale, so she has ASD. But yeah, so it's very easy to use, and my mom uses it 2-3 times a day. And my mom's had amazing things happen to her. We actually saved her leg from being amputated. That's when she was 88 years old. And as you know, the lower extremities are the ones that get the least amount of blood, and that's why you have a lot of foot problems when people get older. You get neuropathy. You get neuropathy from chemo, and that's one of the things. There's no drugs for chemo-induced neuropathy. So along the way, so I found a machine to work for migraines, and so we started word of mouth, making more machines and selling them. As we got more people, they would tell us different things that they experienced. Not only did it help them with their migraines, but it helped them with their neuropathy. It helped them with their arthritis. It helped them with their carpal tunnel. It helped them with all kinds of things that I never expected.
Right. So your estimate is that you've had now about what, 500,000 sessions with no contraindications?
We actually tried to figure it out yesterday, and I think we're closer to 6 million treatments with the device. And well, not with that device, obviously, but with the Avacen treatment method over the years, and we've had 0 adverse events experience with it. So it's a very safe machine. It uses all the natural adaptations of the body. And the only thing the only hack is I found a way to use the blood that's normally in the palm of the hand and be able to heat that and have the body take that heat over above normothermia, which everybody told me it couldn't do, because the body is really, really good at managing thermal regulation. And it took a long time to actually find the right temperature so I didn't engage the sweat glands and still make it very comfortable to use, and still make it very effective. And that included finding the right negative pressure, making sure that the cuff on the machine didn't cause a tourniquet effect. So there's a lot of engineering that went into it. The simplest things that you wouldn't think would cause a problem, we ended up fixing. So I mean,
can you explain though, Tom, just like baby steps, what it's doing and why it affects all the microcirculation throughout the body, and it can affect even into the brain, into everything. Why does it affect everything? So, you know, if people are looking, your hand goes in here into the device, right?
Right.
And, you know, it's in there for anywhere from 15 minutes to half an hour. I've got a lot of my patients that are using it that have things like cancer or going for chemo or the radiation. You know, we'll have them using it 4 to 6 times a day, a half an hour. And we're seeing some astonishing things. And then anybody that has a chronic problem, we have them doing it for, we tell them, you know, try to shoot for half an hour, 4 times a day. If you can only do it once, you'll do it twice, once on each hand, that's great. But, you know, it's circulation is everything. And if you can just, I think the biggest thing is you know, what the effect you're creating and how does it create it on that level throughout the body, and why does it hit so many different types of symptoms with people?
Okay. Well, there's two real mechanisms of action that are important with the machine. The reason that I use the palm of the hand, these are your body's radiators, the palms of your hands and the bottom of your feet. So if the body gets overheated, it can dump a tremendous amount of heat through your hands and through your feet. So if you think about it at night, if you're too warm under the covers, it's very convenient to stick your foot out. And the reason that you stick your foot out is, again, the body will redirect, or the hypothalamus will redirect the cardiac output to put more blood in the bottom of your foot. And so the second law of thermodynamics is heat goes to cold. And so if you have a 72 degree or 70 degree room and your blood is 99 degrees, okay, that's going to naturally just get sucked into the cooler area and basically cool your body at the same time. So I use the palm of the hand because there's a unique vascular system, and they're called arterial venous anastomosis. And that by volume holds 1,000 times more blood than the capillaries that are next to it. And so when you put your hand in there like you just did, that's a vacuum chamber, and that vacuum chamber has negative pressure. So the studies we've done, and we've done it at San Diego State University. We have one that's on our website. But without the negative pressure, nothing happens. So the question that I normally get asked is, well, I'll just put my hand in some warm water. Well, what will happen is the body will vasoconstrict that vascular system, because the body doesn't want any heat or cold coming in, changing the normothermia that it works hard to manage. And so what the vacuum does, it does two things. First of all, it distends that vascular system, because that's the only thing that can expand when you have your hand in there. And so more blood gets pulled into the palm of the hand. So I have more blood in the palm of the hand, and there's a heat transfer pad in there that you're putting your hand on. And that heat transfer pad is 108 degrees. And that will heat the blood this big pool of blood that I created in the palm of the hand with the vacuum. But if it didn't have the vacuum again, what will happen is, as soon as the hypothalamus figures out that there's the body's generating heat, it knows where the source is. The body's amazing with all its sensors. And so it would vasoconstrict, it would turn off, it would close through innervation using the sympathetic nervous system. There's nerves around that, and it will close that AVA, or arterial venous anastomosis, so the blood will not go to the heart and circulate through the body. But the vacuum, you know, it's the body's trying to close it. I don't know if you can see this. The body's trying to close it, but my vacuum is pulling it open. So we reach an equalization point where I have a heat pump on your circulatory system, and the body can't do anything about it. Still very safe. And then what happens is, because I'm putting heat in the body and it continues to grow, the next thing that happens is the body dilates the capillaries. And all of the peripheral capillaries, of course, the skin being the biggest organ in your body, it will dilate all of these capillaries to radiate off this excess heat. And I don't put enough heat in to engage the sweat glands, though, because all I want to do is get those capillaries working. And so I'm eliciting capillary function on the skin. It also happens to elicit capillary function that feed the organs and feed the cells inside the body. So I'm warming the body from the inside out and making the capillaries do what they're designed to do, and that's provide oxygen and nutrition to the cells, also take away toxins such as CO2, and also getting rid of excess interstitial fluid, which is another thing that most people don't know the capillaries do. So why Danielle, who's our director of marketing, I always hear her tell people, they say, well, where will it work for me? And who will it help? Well, it'll help anybody that has blood. So that limits it to unlimited. And the second thing that it'll do is because you have blood from the top of your head all the way down the bottom of your toes, we have this oxygen being delivered to the cells that more than likely lacked oxygen and nutrients going to them. And we perform something called capillary recruitment. And capillary recruitment, if you do any reading on it, it's amazing. There's a drug called metformin, and metformin recruits capillaries. And what that means is you have capillaries that were servicing cells at one time. And as you get older, the perfusion or the blood going through those capillaries start withdrawing. And it gets to a point where, and this is a great study, the ABO study that was done in Prague, and they showed as you get older, your functional capillary density, which is the functional means that they're perfused, will get less and less and less and less, and then they finally die when they went up to 90 years old.
Yeah, I think, Tom,
so
you were saying before that it's actually now the new marker, the new indicator for anti-aging?
It is actually. A couple of years ago, everybody was into, and I went and got my telomeres tested, and so I was excited because I had more of them available to live longer. But then I finally realized when I was in Amsterdam working with Microvision on real-time analysis of our ability to recruit capillaries, we started looking at functional capillary density, and they told me about the Prague study. And so when you have a lot of telomeres, hey, it's great. I mean, I always give a weird description. You can have enough telomeres to wrap around your body and go across the street. But if you don't have any way for the body to feed those new cells that you can create because you have the telomeres, what good are they? I mean, and so functional capillary density says you take an area of tissue and then a magnification of, I forget what it is. I think it's as little as 50. And so you can compare one against the other, and you can look at how dense the perfused capillaries, how dense in that area of tissue at that magnification, how dense are those? And that's also a factor of increased microcirculation. So when you're younger, you've got think of a forest, feeding that tissue. And as you get older, the trees start dying. And so when you're about 40 is always a good number of people talk about it, but 80% of those trees are gone. No, I'm sorry, 20% of the trees are gone. So, and then as you get older, then eventually almost all the trees are gone, feeding that ground beneath the trees. And that's really what functional capillary density means. It just means that you have less capillaries that are feeding that section of tissue and feeding those cells. And when you have less cells being fed, they die off, or they get malignant. It's as simple as that.
So it's a pretty important thing to increase the flow, whether it's energy, blood, oxygen, nutrients. So yeah, that makes sense. I actually took the unit into my dentist, and he's been having problems with one of his hands, which is not a good thing as a dentist. And after one session, it's been about 4 weeks now, and it hasn't come back. Also did another lady a couple of weeks ago. She had her left hand in with arthritic inflammation in her right, and she could feel the difference as she was getting the session.
Yeah, one of the things that you'll feel, some people with poor circulation, they'll feel a tingling. And that tingling is when capillaries start being used again that haven't been used for a while, or get perfused. And that's always a good sign. So, oh, my hand is tingling using this. It happens in about 1 out of 20 people. But that's nothing to worry about. It's actually a good sign because we're doing something. But back on the longevity thing one more time, functional capillary density, as you get older, if you can maintain or increase it, and we have shown that in the age group 70 years to 90 years that we're twice the functional capillary density as those people who haven't used the machine. And it's pretty, we're going the opposite way. We're going the opposite way.
Yeah, one of the other visual indicators I like is the nail growth. You know, so after, what is it, 6 days, it's increased by 400%. And I've noticed that myself. I'm cutting my nails like every couple of days instead of every week and a half now. So, and the thing is to let people know that, you know, it's a practical way of seeing that change, but it's not specific just to your nails. It's every cell in your entire body. So then people get an idea of how this is working in terms of anti-aging.
Yeah, growing your hair thicker, growing your hair back, changing your hair from
gray, white, natural color.
Yeah, to make it come back. So the reality is it's all about circulation. It's always been about circulation. Increasing circulation increases temperature. When you increase temperature, you get rid of the crystallization and you get rid of the adhesions in the body. So it's always been about circulation. And this is just a way that we're hacking that most important part of circulation, which is your microcirculation. Go ahead, Tom.
No, that's absolutely true. Yeah, and the things you mentioned about the hair growth. I mean, that's because you can't look inside your body. I think when I grew up, they had these Buster Brown shoe things where you're actually putting radiation to see how your foot felt inside the shoe. You can see if I don't know if you guys had that where you are, but anyway, yeah, you did your own X-ray in the shoe store. But you can't see inside your body, but you can actually see new cells being created because the way nails grow. For example, there's a thing called the matrix, and it's right at the bottom. It's at the nail bed, and it needs oxygen and nutrients to grow that nail.
Is that the moon, Tom? You know when they say you've got a nice moon, that white. You know, your nails should be pink, but the matrix is the moon. Am I right about that? No.
Yeah, right at the bottom of the nail.
That's right.
That's actually where we look at our. That's the only place in the body, by the way, where the capillaries are elongated. Otherwise, you just see the top of the loops when you look at your capillaries through your skin.
Right.
And that's where we watch the perfusion. And so we do as a matter of fact, on the internet, if you there's a guy that did a great video about microcirculation and our devices on YouTube. He did a really fine thing, and he actually shows the perfusion of the blood going into the nail bed, which actually makes the nails grow. So, and with hair, I mean, I've seen some amazing things for especially women who lose their hair getting chemo. We bring that hair back from the lady I just met, actually a good friend, but I just met about 3 weeks ago, and she finished chemotherapy, and they said it would take a year to 2 years to get her hair back, and she ended up getting she had a full head of hair, and it was after only about 3 months. So it was curly, it was thick. I thought she was wearing a wig, actually, but anyway, that's a good way of seeing what's happening inside your body.
Yeah,
who doesn't your hair grows? And
who doesn't want to see healthier hair? I mean, that's one of the things that people really hate to lose as they get older, right?
Yeah, but what people don't understand too is we're talking about nails and hair, and that's really great. But understand something: if it's growing nails and hair, it's actually helping to create new tissue in your organs throughout your whole body, right, Tom?
Correct, absolutely.
Yeah. So even in the brain. I mean, everybody needs to understand something. It's always been about circulation, okay? And unless you have circulation, you're not delivering the oxygen, the nutrition, and you're not getting the right temperature to facilitate hormonal or chemical delivery. But I think, Tom, you know more better about that, right?
No, you're absolutely correct.
Right.
And getting rid of toxins. If you don't get the capillary function going, you're not getting rid of toxins in your body.
Yeah, so detox all you want, but without the circulation, it's like going and taking a stick and just stirring a mud puddle, and you're stirring up the mud, but you're not getting rid of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, Tom, what about telling us some things like you guys got some studies going on or studies you've done? I mean, I think what people really need to hear is I need them to hear the facts, the science, This, I don't want people to feel on this show that they're ever being given another gadget. Like this is a KTEL show. I want them to understand that the only reason why I have this here, I only have like three really energy medicine devices that I even work with. And believe it or not, I think before I bring something on my show. And we did some hard thinking before we brought this on because you know what? You can work for years for a reputation. It can be gone overnight. But this is something that deserves our attention. Tom?
Yeah, thank you very much for actually choosing our device. Um, yeah, for the studies, okay, we've really got a combination of 7 studies that either are completed or are in process. And they start out. Our first study we did was a study on fibromyalgia, which is published and peer reviewed, and it's online at clinicaltrials.gov. It's a U.S. government's website, and it's also on our website. You can download it. The results that we had on there, and the reason we picked fibromyalgia is because of the widespread pain associated with it. And the only way to treat it at the time was using one of 3 drugs, Cymbalta, Lyrica, and Savella, which have some pretty damaging side effects. And so we picked that because that was the only one that there was no medical device that treated it. And then secondly, the Department of Veterans Affairs for the Department of Defense had people that were starting to get fibromyalgia, and they had no way to treat them, and the last thing they wanted to do was give them drugs. So that study showed that we were able to reduce in 4 weeks the widespread pain associated with fibromyalgia by 40.5%, which is about 20 times more efficient than the drugs that are available and with 0 side effects, and also reduced depression. So that was our first study. Our second study was done at San Diego State University, and it showed that we were able to reduce mean arterial pressure by about 4 millimeters of mercury. And that was significant. And then we went on after that, and we went to Amsterdam, and we did a study where they gave us 13 patients, and they threw in, it was funny because all these patients were supposed to have pain-related injuries, and we had a placebo device, which was a vibrating device that was our machine, and a regular active device. But they threw 13 people, but they threw 3 people that didn't have anything wrong with them, and we caught that, and the results came up with were amazing for 10 of the 10 people who had pain. So that was just, these people were on an average of about 65 years old, and just one use. The study was just one use, and neuropathy disappeared in some of the people, back pain, and it was so varied, and that study is, I think I sent you a copy of that, those 13 patients. And then we went on to autism study, and we started that in 2017, and we're just finishing up with that. The data is huge, so it's taken a long time for the principal investigator to analyze the data. I expect really good results. The reason we did the study is we just had so much empirical evidence of how we were affecting autistic children. Because what we do is we simulate 2 things, really. One is moderate exercise. So if you can think of any benefit of moderate exercise without the damage to the joints and everything else, we do that. But we also simulate a low-grade fever. So when you think about all of the things and the rapid healing that we do, once you start getting a low-grade fever, you start getting the inflammatory cells distributed to where the body hurts. And so we engage the inflammatory system. But by doing a low-grade fever, there's something called the fever effect. And in 1980, at Bellevue Hospital, which is a hospital in New York City that is basically for people with mental issues, there was a whole ward of severely affected autism, children with autism. And what they found is they ended up getting a virus, and they all got fevers, and it was amazing. What happened is they became almost normal. Their speech impediments went away. Their sleep came back to them. All of the nervousness and other issues just disappeared. And what happened is when the fever went away, it came back. And so this was really exciting for the researchers, but they couldn't get permission to do any studies, human studies on autistic children because they weren't allowed to infect children. And so there's really been no follow-up on that fever effect until our machine, because we simulate a low-grade fever. And so what we're doing is what they realized back in 1980. And so that study is actually, it's a family study. It's very detailed, but we took 12 families and we started researching and having them use the device with diaries, with videos, with all kinds of things. And that study should be, it's finished, but the data is being set for publication. So, but the publication won't be until November. And then we have two other studies that we finished at San Diego State University. One was to show that we could reduce resting glucose. And then the next one is that we could, using OGTT, which is oral glucose tolerance test, which they use to determine whether you're diabetic or not. So that's the second study we finished, and those are being prepared in a manuscript for publication. And I can't talk about the results because when you publish a manuscript, you have to certify that if any information has not been in the public domain. So that manuscript should be published in the next 30 days. So I'm very excited about that. And then we're doing one final study that is taking 30 subjects that are already pre-diabetic, which means that their resting glucose is 100 or more. And what we will try to prove then, and I think we'll be very successful at it from what we've seen so far, is that this will be a wonderful way to prevent diabetes for people who are pre-diabetic. And that's going to be big. That's going to be very huge. So we're really busy for doing studies. One of the reasons that I decided in December of last year to bring on or do a partnership with another company to market the device is I wanted to do 6 more studies that we have, and the studies take all of my attention. So I didn't want to lose anything by marketing the device. So
and they probably take a lot of money too.
And it takes a lot of money. Yeah, it takes a lot of money. We've invested over $6 million so far on the device, including the cost of studies.
Tom, there's also a connection I know with relaxation and improving sleep. Maybe if you could expand on that.
Yeah. So there's something called the relaxation effect, and Herbert Benson at Harvard Medical Center in 1975 came out with a book, The Relaxation Response. And what the relaxation response is when your mean arterial pressure, if your pressure drops, your heart rate drops, your blood pressure drops, your heart rate drops, and your glucose goes down, and then the body goes into a relaxation state that gets rid of stress, and it also increases longevity. And so when we finish the final study here, then we'll have the trifecta. We'll have proven that we can elicit the relaxation response. And so, and why that's important, there's a couple ways that you generally can, there's 3 general ways that you can elicit from Dr. Benson's book that you can elicit the relaxation response. One is yoga, one is meditation, another one is moderate exercise. And what happens with the people that can practice yoga, meditation, or moderate exercise, those are typically not the people that really need it. The people that really need it are the ones that don't have the discipline, and they're overweight, and they can't take time, or they just don't follow through.
Tom,
Moderate exercise. I mean,
yeah, if you don't mind, everybody out there, that's it. The person that's always exercising doesn't need it. The person that never exercises, the ones that need it, and they're the ones that are going to get into trouble. Now, here's the thing, and believe this or not, we've actually had people start using the Avacen, and believe it or not, it got their circulation going, that they started doing walking. They started actually doing rebounding, core twisting. It gave them that extra boost. And you know what? It took the couch potato, and understand something. There's nothing wrong with it. Like I tell people, half an hour, 4 times a day, see how you feel. You'll see how you feel. But it will get you into a parasympathetic state, because most people don't even know it, but they're terrorizing themselves on a subconscious level and continually dumping adrenaline and cortisol into their body, which is eating up the oxygen, which is always making them feel beat up. That would be fibromyalgia and a whole bunch of other things. That's where a lot of the pain comes, is from the actual, the program of always running a sympathetic program and feeling a little bit terrorized, or what's going to go wrong today. You know what? We have found that the Avacen, Tom, will actually start training people a new muscle memory of learning how to relax on not just a physical level, because it will relax them, but it calms them down on an emotional level so they can start reprogramming. And we use this along with the 12 self-loving Braveheart steps, and we're making great inroads with that.
Yeah, the ability to get rid of stress these days and to relax. I have this theory, and I haven't had time. One of the studies we want to do is on infertility for healthy people that should be able to conceive children, and they don't. And I think all of that has to do with stress. So one of the 6 studies that I have planned is to work with fertility clinics and use the device for relaxing the man and the woman. And I think it's going to be amazing, because I've seen some of the results you just told me. This weekend I went through a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We were at a integrative medicine for mental health conference here in San Diego, and boy, did those people get it. I mean, they were telling me all the stuff that our device does, and I said, well, you didn't use one. They said, well, I'll tell you what if what you told me is what you're doing. I said, it is. And he said, you should do this, 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 and that. And you're a good person like that. You told me so many things that I couldn't talk about, but that you've already figured out.
Yeah, so Tommy, you've taken this from, helping a relative with migraines and expanding it into so many areas, which is pretty exciting. Now, the other thing is that, of course, you've done your homework. It's actually FDA approved, which is not an easy task as a medical 2-class device. It's Health Canada approved as a medical 2-class device, and European Union. And what are there? 17 international patents on it?
There's 28 members 28. Of the EU.
Okay.
But the FDA we're FDA cleared, not approved. But
okay.
Drugs are approved. Everybody makes that mistake. Right. But drugs are approved, and only in certain situations medical devices are approved, but they're typically cleared. We are not. We were FDA approved, not FDA approved, Health Canada approved, but we took a different path with that, and because we wanted to be able to, as an indication for youth, that's a slip, indication for use, talk about wellness and longevity, and we ran into a situation where making those claims we'd have to go through a lot. So all of our export devices, and we have to be consistent around the world, are now cleared as not cleared as, but our indications of use are as a wellness appliance and not a medical device. And that allows us to get our device in the hands of so many people around the world quicker and less expensive. I mean, every time you go through, it was $500,000 to get this device FDA cleared, and it took 2.5 years to do it. I don't want to wait that long. And so for Health Canada, and you'll see it if you look on our website on the indications of use. And the same thing, even though, and we're CE marked too. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we are CE marked, which is accepted by Canada and accepted by the EU.
All right, so generally we're working on wellness, which is the case with a lot of the things that we're utilizing today. Yeah.
Well, it's all about wellness, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's always going to be about that. And there's always going to be some hoops you can jump through, because those hoops were created for a reason. But so what we're seeing here is that we need to eat right, breathe right, think right. But today, you know what? We need to harness energy medicine. So what you've done is you've harnessed energy medicine to facilitate opening up one of the biggest physical blocks that people do not understand. And you know what, people, when you're watching this show, just understand something. When you have a disease, you don't have one physical block. You've got 20 or 30 throughout your body, and they're not showing up because it's not on the radar because it's caught up in the microcirculation department. And the proof is in the pudding. When you start opening up your microcirculation and bringing it back, then you're going to turn on all the lights, because understand, there could be just one major highway going through your city. You know, it's going this way. That would be the arteries, the veins coming back this way, and it's taking tons of traffic. But understand something, everybody's got to get home, so they've got to get on those side streets and then go down those quiet streets to get to home, and home would be your health. So until we get those side streets working properly, you're never going to get home, and that would be real health. What do you think of that, Tom?
I love the analogy.
Okay.
It's absolutely a great way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is basically what it is it's a delivery system. And it's a delivery system for nutrition and a delivery system to get the garbage out. And it goes right down to the micro level. Right.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
So can you give us a few more testimonials before we wrap up?
Well, sure. I mean, just in the last week, I can think of 3 of them that were pretty amazing. One was a 85-year-old woman who had heart surgery, and she wasn't getting enough blood to her heart after the surgery. And again, something was blocked. And so she sent me an email last Thursday, and after the surgery, she had a walker. They gave her a walker, and she could only go about 5 steps, and she'd have to rest. One of the Avacen distributors, Reverend Darrell, knew of her, let her use the device, and all of a sudden she was able to walk with her walker and then walk without her walker. She, for her 86th birthday, she came into the party just walking and just amazed everybody else. And that was after, and in between that, she had a spleen operation right before her birthday, removed her spleen. And so she had 2 major surgeries in a period of 4 weeks. And that was pretty amazing. As for clearing up the mind, we have one boy who is 13 years old now. And he's been using our device for 3 months, and he has autism, and it's interesting because he uses the device 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off, and the reason he does that is because he has joint custody, and his other family member refuses to let him use the device for whatever reason. But so he's been on 2 weeks off for a period of 3 months. Last week, his grandmother, who has joint custody with him, was driving in Huntington Beach, and I just found it out last week. My wife had lunch with her, and not only has it helped him all along with his alertness with autism, but they were driving down Harbor Boulevard in Huntington Beach, and they had driven that road 1,000 times, is what she told me. And all of a sudden, the boy looked over at her and said, "Nana, I can read the signs. I can see trees. I can see leaves on trees. I can see people real clearly." And she didn't know he hadn't had a problem with that, and because he had lower performance in school. And then he said, "And Nana, I'm trying to think of the exact words. It's pretty bad. All my brain blockage just went away, just absolutely disappeared." So, but that took 3 months and 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, which is a very difficult protocol to recommend. But just that, yeah, that's amazing. And then Oh, just healing. Okay, so I don't know if I sent you the fellow that had the um,
The cancer on
cancer
his
removed
face.
from
Yeah.
removed from his face. Now, isn't that amazing? And
What
they
happened?
really had to go down deep and dig a hole in his chin. And so they did, I think, 10 stitches inside and 20 stitches outside, so you get an idea how big this was. And in almost 4 days after getting it all stitched up and the cancer removed, um, if you stood at maybe 5 feet, you wouldn't even be able to see because it healed so quickly. But that's what microcirculation is. And actually, in the face, cosmetic surgeons use our device because the people heal in 1/3 the time. There's been no cases of somebody using our device for plastic surgery that they get an infection, which is a real issue for plastic surgery. And I don't know. So those are, I mean, just the healing, and that's because again, the microcirculation, and we're actually kicking in the inflammatory system to deliver the inflammatory cells to where they're supposed to be. And it's just amazing how fast you can heal.
Excellent.
Beautiful. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with, Tom?
I think whatever melody you have, use the device. There's so many things that I've seen happen with it that I wouldn't have believed, but I do believe now. I've seen fingers get reattached and the nail growing in the finger, which it never should once they get severed. It's just an amazing device, and I'm just so happy that I made the discovery trying to help somebody, and I think anytime you're helping somebody, you're going to get rewarded somehow. This has been my reward.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Helping other people's potential evolve no matter where they are in life or whatever age they are. It's great work you're doing, sir.
Absolutely. I want to thank you, Tom, for being on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And everybody out there, I just want to say this, okay? Yes, it is a device, and yes, I truly believe that it's life-changing and life-saving. But I just want you to know here at the Doc of Detox, we're not going to stop there. So let's say if you come, let's say you want to get a device and try it out. Before you do that, you'll be calling and you'll be getting a consultation from me, because we'll be talking about how to create the perfect day from the minute you wake up until you go to bed. And we're going to see where maybe there might be some stumbling blocks emotionally or physically with you. We're going to give you some guidance. We're going to hold your hand as much as you need to. And when you start working with the perfect day and learning how to master not just your mind and your body, and you start utilizing the Avacen, just know that we're going to be here for you for every call, for everything, until you get your confidence levels up and you have retrained your brain that you are the master of your mind, you are the master of your body. And just as we can create illness, we can take our power back and we can have a total healing, okay? So understand that. And if you have any questions about the Avacen, you can, like I said, call our 800 number. But if you'd like to see other information on the Avacen, go to Light and Color Guide, okay, on Doc of Detox Library. You'll find it up in the top on the front page of Doc of Detox website or Doc of Detox store. You'll see library, click on that. You can go into the library, go to the Light and Color Guide. You can watch the videos and then call us with your challenging questions. We want to be challenged. Remember something, question authority and make sure that you're a smart consumer. Marcel, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, just that, pretty much what Darrell was saying, there are many tools in the holistic toolbox.
Oh yeah, they're coming out every day.
Oh yeah, I mean, we knew about things.
We've only got 3 of them.
Yeah,
over the last 20 years that we're with.
And the old are coming back, whether it's turmeric or apple cider vinegar or ozone. It's like, oh my God, we're just discovering
structured water.
And we were doing that back, 20, 30 years ago. But the whole thing is that there's a lot of tools in the toolbox. And as good as one thing is, don't let it be the only thing you do. You're gambling with your life. Don't do that. Okay?
No, just
Put all the
just
odds-
don't gamble with your life.
Yeah, put all the odds in your favor. And a lot of these things work in harmony and synergistically with each other. So the faster you're going to get the results. You know, the more you do, the faster it happens. You know, the quality of life is everything. And with that, I'm going to say thanks again very much, Tom, for taking the time to, you know, help us, you know, get this information out there. We really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Tom. And everybody out there, if you enjoyed this show, you might want to check out The Perfect Day, The Braveheart Way, I Am Woman, The Domino Effect, Spoiled Rotten, and so many other shows that we've done, all in the Doc of Detox library. And this library is about creating a powerful foundation for you to bring love home and to bring health home. And I want to thank Tom again for being on our show, because he's a big part of that. Okay, because listen to me. If you don't have microcirculation, you don't have energy. And if you don't have energy, then you don't have enough energy to love your family. Then that's called a dysfunctional relationship. So, you know, plug it in and turn yourself on and get your circulation going, because that's what you call living. God bless and have a beautiful day.
Bye now.
If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.